All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We're here at the home studio today, Radio Garden State HQ. We're here with Tommy Gucciardo, founder of Savvy Seats. Tommy, welcome to my home.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. I got a surprise when I came in.
Yeah, Duck punched you literally right in the nuts.
Right. That was a good feeling. Good way to start.
I did warn you sort of, but I didn't really give you the full, like, she's going to just come for you.
No, I got...
Yeah, you got the full...
I got the full effect.
The full hello. Honestly, like, I mean, maybe a term of endearment because she does that to Chrissy's dad.
Okay.
And that's really like, you're the only other person that's happened to.
Oh, so I feel I'm honored.
Yeah.
I'm honored today to be in your house and get kicked in my nuts.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks
you
for
drove
having
here
me.
in the shitty weather.
You're right.
Took you forever, and then you got punched in the nuts as soon as I opened the door. So
good way to start.
Yeah, a great way to start. All right. So I think maybe what we'll kind of start out with is how you and I met. We met at American Dream,
yes, sir,
doing one of your tailgates,
yep,
which was a phenomenal event. It was the kick. It was the opening.
It was the opening weekend
yep, for the Jets, right?
No, I think it was the Giants.
Oh, the Giants.
Giants,
yeah,
Giants
right.
opening weekend.
Giants opening weekend. And you ran those for every Jets Giants home game from the whole season.
Yes,
right.
Yes, we did.
Let's just talk about those a little bit because I thought it was really cool. You had like a gaming thing, you had a cigar roller, you had drinks. Happy Dad was there, food, a DJ, obviously us. FanDuel was there too.
Right.
It was, I mean, that was like an impressive kind of kickoff event.
Yeah, it was a lot. We put it together in a very short period of time. We weren't sure if we were going to do it, and we ended up doing it. And like part of what I like to do is give people an experience.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can go to a tailgate in the parking lot, have a couple of drinks, eat a couple of hot dogs, and, go into the game. But I want somebody when they come to our tailgate or anything that we do at Savvy Seats, whether we're going to a Knicks game, whether we're going to a Yankee game, anything, I want them to know that it's an experience and we want to be part of that. Right. Yeah. And, it showed it in our tailgates. We want to make sure that there's things for everybody to do. Because not everybody just sits there and drinks. You know, maybe the wife comes or maybe, the husband doesn't drink or the wife doesn't drink. And it's not always about drinking. It's about having a good time.
Yeah. It was cool just because, we have friends that do, their own tailgates, have been doing tailgates for forever. But it was just kind of like a cool, different experience to do it, at American Dream. It's not like you're far away. You're literally, what is it, like a 10-minute walk?
It's not even. It's a 5-minute walk. So sometimes some of the lots like J and K,
you got to walk for forever.
You got to walk 5 or 6 minutes, anyway. But people get confused because they see American Dream. It's on the other side.
Yeah.
It's a walkway.
Yep.
But it's a 5-minute walk. It's very simple.
Yeah.
The parking there is a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
If you take that 5-minute walk after the game, you'll be out quicker than going in some of the premium lots over there.
Can we talk about so that first one that you did that I was at, that wasn't the first one that you had ever done, right?
No, I've done tailgates in the past.
Previous years.
Yes,
there,
I was always in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I was always, in the MetLife parking lot. And, I just felt I couldn't expand it. And it's really, MetLife doesn't want you to be there.
Yeah.
You take away from them.
Right.
And I understand that. Everybody has a business. Everybody spends money. And, I wanted a place where we can grow it into a real business and give people an experience. Hopefully maybe the Jets and Giants notice and, we do something with them going forward.
Sure.
So, that's the goal of this thing. The goal of this thing is to get the right people around it. Like last year we had FanDuel. We had Happy Dad there last year.
Yeah.
We had Big Sips. 5-Hour Energy came. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring real brands in there to make it an experience for people,
So how did something like the tailgates that you were doing, whether it was at MetLife or the stuff that you're doing at American Dream, like where did that come from? Were you just kind of into doing that? Like you just
I never, that's not something that I ever thought about.
Yeah. So,
before I was at Savvy Seats, I was partners with a company called Ticket Bash, and we had a person. We would always ask, do you guys run buses to MetLife? Everybody always wanted to go to MetLife.
Yeah.
And we started with a bus with a guy with a grill and, a couple of beers. And then it went to drinks and then it went to a DJ.
Yeah.
And then I partnered with somebody else there. And then, it just became into something.
Yeah.
And my partner at the time, he always used to say after we became successful at it, he says, you thought this would never work. And now you're like knee deep in it,
Yeah.
And, because I didn't understand it.
Right.
I didn't know what it was. And, it's a lot of work, especially when you have the bus. So you're bringing a bus from, New York over. You have 100 people, 200 people on a bus, bringing them there, getting them there, setting up a tailgate, getting the food, getting the DJ. It's a lot of logistics, and it's a lot of work to run that one event. People don't realize. We don't come into the parking lot that day and say, hey, everybody come here.
Right.
There's a lot of manpower behind it. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. And then to do it essentially every week, really.
Yeah. Yes,
because if it's the Jets or the Giants, generally one of them is home.
Yeah, it could be like week. At least,
sometimes twice.
Yeah, it could be, yes, it could be a Friday and a Sunday and a Monday night game or a Sunday and a Thursday night game.
Right.
So, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And, what I like out of it is when I get the call the next day.
Yeah.
I had the greatest time. My group was excited. That to me makes me happy. It's not just about, do I want to make money? Do I want to run a business? Of course. But there's also that side of that I want people to know that we took the time to make your day a good day.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was some phone calls that you get at, 8 o'clock after the game and somebody's drunk all day and they're like, the bus is hot. It's really hot. The bus is broken. Yeah. All right, so would you like me to stop the bus there, wait on the side of the road for 3 hours to get into another bus?
Yeah.
Or do you just want to bite the bullet for 30? So sometimes you have to deal with some people that you don't want to. And then the next day when you call them to, say, listen, I hope you had a great time. Sorry about what problem,
Yeah.
So, but that's what you get with tailgates.
Right.
But it to me, it makes me happy.
Yeah. Let's also talk about Savvy Seats because I think it'd be good to just kind of define all the stuff that you're doing and then how they coexist, whatever. Yes. So for people listening, Radio Garden State partner with Savvy Seats within the last couple weeks, I think. So code RGS10 gets you $10 off your first purchase on Savvy Seats. All your purchases, even better. So let's talk about Savvy Seats.
Sure.
We'll kind of talk about what it is, and then we'll kind of go from there.
So once again, to go back, I was partners with a company, Ticket Bash, and it got to a point, sometimes when you have partnerships and when you're a partner, it's sometimes no matter what, even in relationships, sometimes you go your separate ways. We're not hearing one another, we're not talking, and I respect him as a businessman.
Yeah,
I respect him as a friend, and it was just not going in the right direction. And I felt it was a good time for me to start something new.
Yeah.
Right. And, we still talk, we still communicate. It's not like, even though we're in the same space, we're really not competing with one another. Right. I have my own stuff. He has his own stuff. And, but I did learn something being there, right? How to treat a customer. The customer is the most important person.
Right.
And I used to go to my partner. I'd be like, man, you give these people so much time. You give, your heart and soul to them.
Yeah.
But I understand it because, I never did that part of it. I always ran the tailgate part of it and the operation side. Now I'm in the, dealing with the customers, dealing with everything. And I see, what it takes to make a customer happy.
Right.
And sometimes you can't make them happy, right?
Yeah.
But, what I try to do is give them the best service possible. That's why I say every ticket is like a VIP ticket.
Yeah.
Because I want to treat you good.
Right.
And I'm not knocking StubHub and I'm not knocking Vivid. I'm not knocking GameTime. They're companies, they're just aggregators.
Yeah.
It's like going to Expedia.
Right.
They're getting a feed from somebody. They're getting my ticket. You're a broker. I'm a broker. We put all our tickets in a pot. We send them out to, all these exchanges, and they make a fee when I sell it, and they make a fee when you buy it. Right. So how do we combat that? Right. I give customer service.
Yeah.
Like you call GameTime or Vivid, you might be on a hold for 2 hours.
Right.
You're going to get somebody really quick with me.
Yeah.
Whether it me or somebody from my staff, we're going to help you. We're going to solve the problem for you, and we'll get you into any venue, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want, people to have a seamless experience.
Yeah.
I have so many people that one of my biggest clients actually called me randomly, 8 o'clock in the morning, looking for $8,000 worth of tickets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does this guy really want? Right. I was so skeptical.
Yeah.
Skeptical. Sorry.
It's all good. You got kicked in the nuts.
Right. First day with the new Tom.
Right.
And I'm like, why is this guy calling me randomly?
Yeah.
Right. And then we started talking and I started getting into it. He had tickets that another company couldn't provide for him.
Yeah.
And he was stuck at the gate with no tickets.
Which is a disaster.
Right? And So we started talking, and now he's one of my top clients.
Yeah.
Right? Because I give him that service.
Right.
Like last week, his son was at the Knick game, struggling to get my pass is disabled. So if you have a different Ticketmaster account than your your Apple Wallet, it'll say disabled, and everybody panics.
Yeah.
So I told him what to do. I walked him through the process. His kid was at the gate. He said, "Thank you. I love it." Had a great time. Right. Yeah. That's what we do. Get somebody on the phone from StubHub 5 minutes before tip off and explain it pass disabled.
Yeah.
Never going to happen.
No. And that's I think, obviously like the customer service side of it is a big thing. But like when Amber had reached out initially about the partnership and everything, and I was kind of going through it, and some of the stuff that we had done with Radio Garden State was like highlighting all the different concerts and stuff like that going on around New Jersey. And one of my partner, Chris, would do like all of it. He would put together like 3-minute long things and a concert calendar and all this kind of stuff. And we were just like doing it because we thought it was a good thing to do. And eventually I just was just like, you got to stop doing that. It's like so much work for nothing. Like we're not making any money on it. Right. And we're promoting, like, granted, like our thing is to promote creators, but we're also promoting venues that, or ticket links or whatever that don't do anything. And then when this came about, I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I wonder where they're getting, like, where they could get tickets at. So I started like punching in like, PNC Bank Art Center, MetLife, Stone Pony, like all these things, White Eagle Hall, all these spots that are on Savvy Seats.
Right.
So it's not like it's, there's like different venues or like lesser venues. I mean, it's all the same stuff.
No, it's all the same stuff. Yeah. So,
I mean, to like you talk about Knicks games and whatever, like Yankee games, Knicks, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different things that I haven't even dove into yet. Right. But so it's like a legit, like right on par with every other thing that you just mentioned.
Right.
But there are the customer service benefits, there's different kinds of fees and whatever. So, that's all important to know too, right?
So a lot of times what I tell people is I might not have the cheapest seats.
Yeah.
But I could also guide you in the right direction.
Right.
People just always generally look on StubHub and they say, "Oh, I see this seat for $100." But you don't realize that it's a limited view seat that's behind a pole, and you're not going to see half the game, right?
Yeah.
At least I could walk you to a different seat or tell you this is what you should do or this is how you should look at it. So I give them a perspective that, they might not be looking at. They're just looking for cheap.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting you the same seat because I could save them money based on what they're looking on StubHub, and they could pay the same amount of money that they were going to buy the cheapest seat for, but have a better ticket.
Right.
So that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, I think like that's it's just the experience level, I mean, there's some places where like, you talk about like a Stone Pony, it doesn't matter.
You're a GA, you go in there,
and that's it.
Right.
But then there's like things that you talk about, like I remember going to like a Fenway Park one time, sitting like halfway behind a pole.
Yeah, there's like certain sections that have like one seat is like right in the pole.
Yeah, and it's like, why did they think this was a good idea back in 1908? But
I guess they weren't thinking back then.
Yeah, I guess not. But I think that's interesting. But the like Savvy Seats and the tailgates, those are kind of like all intermingled, right?
Yeah, well, it's a different division, right?
Yeah.
So we have a ticket division which deals with all the the higher profile stuff like the Stone Ponies, like the MetLifes.
Yep.
And then we have the events that we curate. And we also help curate other events too. We just did a couple of events, WAJ magazine.
Okay.
We helped them with an event. We just did an event for a young guy who's just starting, who has, a nice brand. We did something for him.
Yep.
So we do other things. It's not just we're not just a ticket broker. We're not just a tailgate company.
Right.
We put events together. We help sponsor. We help get the venue. So we do other things out there that are just not in the ticket, arena.
Right. And so when you were the original company that you were with, partners with, you were doing events and stuff with them too, or was that more just like on the ticket end? And then
we did 1 or 2 events, but that was always my passion, right?
Yeah.
Like getting.
Like, were you doing events before that too, like putting stuff on at all?
Well, I was with Ticket Bash for 10 years.
All
so,
right. Yeah.
The last 15 years of the industry, 10 of them was at Ticket Bash, 2 of them was with Savvy Seats. So we did a couple of events there, but it was just like that didn't fit what we tried to do.
Yeah.
We had a different mindset then. But that's something I like to do. I like to ticket the event. I like to be involved, get the event started, get the venue, bring all the people in, bring the sponsors in. That's what I like to do.
Yeah. And when you're putting these things together, like I'm curious, like you mentioned a couple events that you put on, not just the tailgates and all that, but like you're able to help, whoever kind of curate an event and put it together.
Yes.
Can we talk about maybe like, have there been events that you've put together that you're like, oh shit, this was like really cool. Like, I can't believe we were able to pull XYZ off.
It was one of our first events. It was Jacques out at Stereo Garden.
Okay.
And, that was my first like real foray into it.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like,
I love that though.
Throwing stuff against the wall, seeing if it stuck. It was tough. I mean, we didn't make money on it.
Yeah.
We took a little bit of a loss, but it was a learning process.
Yeah.
And now I see what needs to be done, and, sponsorship is real important when you're doing these events.
100%.
And ticket sales.
Yeah.
Those are the way you drive, traffic in there for the sponsors.
Yeah.
But it also helps with the, with paying some stuff. And the sponsors also are very important because you get the right sponsors in.
Yeah.
And that helps you promote the event.
Right.
And they help promote the event.
Yeah.
So, everything works hand in hand.
Yeah. When you're putting these together and like someone comes to you and they're like, Tommy, I really need some help putting together an event. And are there things that like is there kind of like almost a limit on what they should be doing, or is there, if they have a vision and they think they can execute it and
it all comes down to dollar and cents,
exactly,
right? Like everybody has big dreams and small pockets,
right?
They want the rose petals when they come out.
Yeah.
They want all the top people at the event, and it doesn't happen like that. It takes time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to start small and work your way up and get to that point. But everything takes money.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, ticket sales and sponsorship is but you can't run an event based off sponsorship.
Yeah.
Like you can't rely on a sponsor to cover your venue fee of $50,000. It could be help for the venue fee.
Yep.
But you should have that covered already before you that was the one thing that I didn't realize.
Yeah. Like
I should know, all right, the event's going to cost me $30,000. I should have that ready to go.
Yeah.
If I get no sponsors and no ticket sales.
Yeah.
That should be the mindset. Most people go into an event, you're laughing because
Oh, I know.
You shouldn't go into an event thinking that the ticket sales and the sponsorship is going to cover everything.
Yeah.
Hopefully that happens, but you have to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you're like, let's just take, if you're doing help curate an event, and they have kind of like a vision, but you'll help in a sense like guide them to
like that's
what
why
you think also like would make sense for an event like that. Like
right,
if it's
right. That's why I have a staff for that. That's not my
right.
I have like Amber who does that. She's phenomenal. She sees everything. She has great vision, and her vision is not like you have to spend X amount of dollars.
Sure.
She does really good with what we have.
Yeah.
She knows how to work within a budget, and that's important. And make everybody feel important, right? Because that's the whole thing. You want to have, a cohesive event, right? Nobody has to be fighting with one another.
Right.
Like this vendor can't be mad at that vendor. We just have to keep everything flowing correctly.
Yeah. So going into 2025, obviously you have the football tailgates, and there's, again, like however many Jets, Giants tailgates that there will be, but you're also working on more stuff, right? There's more stuff that you're doing at American Dream for MetLife.
Yeah. We're working on some of the soccer there. We're doing some events there.
Yep.
We're doing Chris Brown, Oasis. We're doing WWE SummerSlam.
Cool.
So we are putting some stuff together that, hopefully, helps us get ready for the football season.
Yeah.
Last year was a little bit of was a little rough. The tailgate was I'll be 100% honest. I bit off more than I could chew.
Sure.
I was used to doing it one way, and then it went from, being this like not part-time, but like this little thing into a monster, and it kind of consumed me.
An entire football
and I made
season.
that one mistake of not having the right amount of money to back it.
Sure.
And listen, it's part of business, right? You take lumps and you keep moving forward. We started late. We started in August.
Yeah.
So a lot of people didn't know we were there. Now we're starting to market it now. We're starting to go back to our old people.
Yeah.
I brought in a partner, Game Day Hospitality, who does probably 300 events throughout the country in a given year.
That's helpful.
So they know the ins and outs, and they're giving me some, it's my event. They're curating it with me.
Yeah.
But they're giving me some really good advice
on
how to build it and how to make it into something.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like all those different things you just mentioned, like WWE versus, Club World Cup games versus a Jets game.
All different.
So different,
yes.
So unique, such a different clientele
100%.
Of the people that you have to like market to, so there's like a lot of moving parts to make sure that event, like people are like, oh, I went to the Savvy Seats event for the tailgate for, SummerSlam. And then later on, they're like, oh, we're going to a Jets game. Let me check and see if, they're doing this.
And it's funny you say that because, like, if you have a business or you have something, there's always like a demographic, right?
Yeah.
Like 25 to 40 does
100%.
this. For me, even, I hate to say it, but there is one demographic. Anybody that goes to an event.
Yeah.
As long as you're over 21, right? Because there's 21 plus.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those same people that do WWE, like you said,
right,
they might be Giant fans.
Yep.
Or they might like, they might like soccer.
Yeah.
So it kind of like all works together. And, it's just an interesting dynamic. Like everybody that's listening to this.
Yeah.
I bet you 85% of them either went to a concert this year, went to a football game, baseball, or some sort of live event.
Yeah.
Or thought about going to a live event.
Right.
So it's a big market.
Yeah.
The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes.
Yeah. Can we talk about too, and I'm just curious because like you and I have both worked with American Dream in different capacities. Obviously like them setting you up in that spot over there, that's a pretty good spot for you.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Yeah.
And, I'm happy that they let me use that location.
Yeah.
And, some of their resources are very helpful.
Sure.
I try not to lean on them that much.
Yeah.
I try to do it, because it is my brand and it is me.
Yeah.
I'm using their space, but they're very helpful. They're very open to listening and they want it to be successful too.
Yeah.
Because listen, the more people that see it at American Dream, if we're doing, 30, 40, 50 events a year and there's 600 people, and that's our capacity at every single one of those events. Now that's 600 more people that might not know what American Dream was about.
Right.
And now they know what American Dream is about.
Yeah.
So it works hand in hand, and all these people that are walking by and we use their name, like, so I give them the it's at American Dream.
Yep.
So people know now so it's definitely good to have them as partners.
Yeah. And then speaking of partners, like we talked about Amber, we talked about, Game Day Hospitality, who you're partnering with this year, and then obviously American Dream. But like I'm just curious because I find myself running into this essentially all the time. Like my first ever Jersey Fest event, I did every detail was me.
Right.
Like I just I was like, there's no one that's going to know exactly what my vision is for this.
Right.
Except for me. And I didn't have anybody that was working for me. So I was like, I just got to do it myself.
Right.
Did you run into that or were you smart enough to not do that out of the gate, putting together some of these events?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no, because I am a very when I take on something, it's me.
Yeah.
I have to be in control. I have to run everything. And what I realized is that doesn't work.
Right.
You have to delegate. If you don't delegate, you're in for problems. Because at the end of the day, it's all in here.
Yeah.
It's all in your brain, right? And if you don't tell somebody your vision or your ideas, or you don't have anybody backing up your visions and knowing what they are, because listen, I don't claim to be the smartest person in the room. I'm probably one of the dumbest people in the room. But I have drive and I have ambition.
Yeah.
And that to me is more important.
Right.
Right. And I want people smarter than me around me to teach me and show me. That's why I brought a guy like Game Day Hospitality. John is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like he spits everything about a tailgate. Like I get on the phone with him and it's like a half hour later, I didn't say one word.
But it's done.
But no. But I learned a tremendous amount.
Right.
Like I'm okay shutting up now.
Yeah.
I used to like to control the conversation, but if you understand something, I'm not going to try to think that I'm smarter than you and tell you how to do your business.
Right.
I'm going to listen and learn.
Yeah.
And that's really important. That's a good way to think about anything.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think also too, like it has to be. I think maybe one of my. I'm not trying to make it about me.
You can.
I mean, like I do have some sort of. I am a good delegator, but I do have, like you said, like a little bit of a control issue because it's just like it's so important to me to make sure that it goes off correctly. But then also like I do. While I'm trusting just kind of like in life, when it comes to like a business thing that you know a reputation is riding on it, I'm very protective of that. So I do have sometimes like a hard time finding the right people, but it seems like you are finding the right people.
I'm starting to find the right people now, and you know, listen, I'm always open to having more people come in, the right people. I want people. Listen, I learned it. You can't do anything by yourself.
Yeah.
You can't build a real business by yourself because then the business is going to own you.
Yeah.
Right. You need people that are around you, and it's okay. Like the other day, I'm sitting there, and you know, I'm on email threads with, you know, everybody. Like I hate being on an email thread because half the time I don't read them because it's for other people to deal with. I'm just in it. But then when I don't see reply all, I see them because I star them, and then I look back. I said. Now I'm sending out like WhatsApps. Like, did you respond to this person? Did you? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But then I say to myself, like, why am I doing that?
Sure. Like if you trust them to do the job.
If I trust them to do the job, let them do the job.
Yeah.
Right. And if they don't, then it's shame on them.
Right.
You know, because at the end of the day, a bonus might be affected, future business might be affected, where they're going to get a residual from it. You know, so I have to look at it that way also. You know, put trust in people.
Right. So all the stuff that you have going on, I mean, you seem like somebody that's ambitious, and in our conversations, I've noticed that. I mean, are there things beyond some of the like the tailgates, obviously the events, Savvy Seats, that you're like, this is kind of like what I want to do this to, or like add a piece, add a different, you know, pillar of the business sort of thing?
Yeah, I think for me, it's more like I like to watch stuff grow.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy that, and I want to be around people. And that's why I have Amber with me now because, you know, eventually, you know, that's going to be our passion, right? You know, doing these events or helping somebody, you know, a young artist or a young entrepreneur get to the next level, you know, in this industry. Right. And that's what we're looking for. Yeah. You know, that's going to be our passion down the road. Like the ticket business is a great business. I love the business. Yeah. It pays the bills. You know, the tailgate business stresses me out. Sure. You know, because it's, you know, like I was talking to some people and they're like, they do like monthly events and some people do quarterly events. And then when I say, you know, we're going to do 40 events in 6 months, they're like, are you out of your mind? Yeah. You know, like it's a lot.
It's a lot. Especially for something like that, because it's not like a, you know, it's like a full on, like you said, experience type thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's not like everything is set there, right? Yeah. Every week we got to go and we got to build it every week. So it's every week we got to go and put the tents up. Yeah. Make sure the stage is there. Make sure the VIP section is together. Yeah. Make sure we have the front gate ready. Make sure the food vendors are in there. Right. So it's a lot of work.
And then you and I talked about it. I mean, I've had an experience recently where somebody doesn't show up and then you're fucked. Right. You know, like, you know.
So what's your plan B?
What's your plan B? Or do you even have a plan B? Right. You know, or what's the timing look like to make it, to fix it, you know? And if you don't have one and if you're not prepared for it, things go awry. But
that's all part of the learning process, right? Yeah. And you know, you have to take it. You can't get mad over it. Yep. It's part of life. Things happen. Yep. And you just make it go, right? Yeah. You fix the problem, and then you figure out how not to do it again.
Yeah. I'm also curious. I should have asked this at the very beginning, but
that's all right.
Getting into the ticket business, was it just something that just kind of like
it was just something random at one point in my life? I was like in between something. You know, I had a business that didn't work, and I was just like stressed out. Sure. And my partner from Ticket Bash was at a place, and he's like, why don't you just come here for a little bit? Yeah. Hang your hat. And I did it for 3 or 4 years, and it was cool. It was fun. And then I kind of did something else, and ticket business always drew me back. Yeah. You know, I like to go into events. Sure. I went to Knicks games. I was going to Yankee games, and I was like, why don't I do this as a living? Yeah. And then, you know, he split from the person that he was working with. He was managing something. He was running the company. And then he started his own place. And he's like, I need somebody. Yeah. you want to do operations, you want to do back end. And I'm like, all right, you know, and I left the job that I was at.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I was from business to like, even when I was working at the ticket business, it was kind of my own business within a business.
Yeah.
And then I went and I worked somewhere, and I'm just not, I don't do well with bosses. You know,
yeah.
I just don't do well. You know, like
I get it. Yeah.
You know, I beat to my own drum. I'm sorry. I have the entrepreneur spirit in me. It's just, that's the way I am. Right. Yeah. And, you know, I left something that was pretty decent to go on to something that I had no idea about.
Sure.
And I worked like 13 hours a day. I helped build his business. And then after a period of time, he says, you know, why don't we become partners?
Yeah.
And then we were partners for like 7, 8 years, you know? And, like I said, it was great. It was great. But it came to a point that, you know, he had different visions. I had different visions. You know, he had more money involved in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was bothering him. That was stressing him out. And I understand that. And
Sure.
I'm not never mad, never upset. It just, we had to go our separate ways.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I started this. I wasn't sure. Like, should I start something? Shouldn't I start something? Maybe I'll do something else. And I said, you know what? I know the business.
Yeah.
I know how to start it. Like if you told me I was going to go from like this to like a pizzeria, you know, maybe you tell me I'm nuts.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like, what do you know about pizzeria? Except, you know, look at the size. You could eat it.
Yeah. I know good pizza.
Right.
Yeah.
I could eat it and cook it, but I can't like manage a business.
Right.
And then I said, you know what? Let me just give this a shot.
Yeah.
And, you know, here we are.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just curious too, because you got the Knicks sweatshirt on.
Yeah, baby. Let's go.
When this comes out, hopefully they've advanced. It'd be the final, right?
I think it would be by the finals, if according to
June 10th.
Yeah, it should be right around the finals.
Yeah, so fingers crossed for that. I just found it like I listened, you know, grew up listening to WFAN, listen to WFAN even still when I'm not listening to Radio Garden State, which is what everyone should be listening to anyway. But they were talking about like the Knicks game 3 get in price was like $1,500.
Yeah, you know, they kind of like, it wasn't 1,500.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was for a second it was there, and then it kind of yeah. So what happens is a lot of times people don't know what the game is going to be, right?
Yeah.
So 1 and 2, you know, is going to be one price because you know you're playing that game,
right?
So think about this, right? They went to Boston on 2 games.
Yep.
If they were down 0-2 going back to New York, that game 3 would be a 0.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that would be a little bit, you know, higher than
Sure.
the rest of the series because people are going to want to see them come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe they're going to win. They lose that game. Game 3, the next game is going to be like
ghost town.
You know, you could give the tickets away.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, a lot of times those prices are up.
Yeah.
Based off the first 2 games.
Sure.
And then once the demand comes in and people aren't paying $1,500, then it's kind of like it's like the stock market.
Yeah.
You know, it starts leveling out. It starts coming down.
And they were also like talking about too, like, you know, if you wait till like 30 minutes before a game, sometimes you'll see that number come down and then you find what your budget is, whatever.
Yeah. You know, what that always bothers me. Like when a person has that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Like, all right, so, you know, let's say you're looking at it all day. You spend your whole day watching a ticket.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to work or you're with your family.
Yeah.
You know, and you're doing stuff during the day, and every 5 minutes you're looking at a phone to see if it goes down $25, right?
Yeah.
And then you might get lucky and then you might save yourself $50.
Yeah.
99% of the time that backfires on you.
Yeah.
And you spend more than you would at the beginning of the day.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, like that's why, you know, you come to a guy like me. I'm going to guide you and I'm going to say, I'll look at it during the day.
Yeah.
You don't look at it. This is your price. We'll try to get your price.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I'll just pull the trigger for you.
Yeah. It's helpful to have I think the best piece of what Savvy Seats has to offer is just the customer service end of it.
And the knowledge of the business.
Right. The knowledge of the business.
Hey, listen, sometimes I'm wrong.
Sure. You know, it's hard to, you know, you're predicting things, you know, whatever. But obviously, like if you have, you know, a knowledge of like what's happened in the past on these types of games or whatever, you know, that's helpful. Cause like, I mean, I go to some events, not a ton, but I don't know. Like let's just get whatever ticket we get and we'll go figure it out when we get there.
You know, so just to give you an example, let's talk about that, right? Like last week, you know, Mets played the Yankees, right? Soto's first game back.
Yep.
They called for rain on Friday. You could have bought the seats the beginning of the week at, let's say, $100.
Yeah.
Right? Because they thought it was rain. Nobody wanted to go.
Right.
The week before, that ticket was like $130, $140.
Yep.
It dropped because of the rain. The day before, they had no rain in the forecast or it was going to miss them. The seats went from $100 to $150.
Yeah.
Because now there's demand for it.
Sure.
So now all the people at the beginning of the week, they go, all right, I want that ticket that you told me was $100 or $125.
Yeah.
Well, it's at $160 now.
Yeah.
So like, you can't, expect that to still be there. And they know.
Yeah.
They know.
Right.
They just played, little,
Yeah.
little coy. Oh,
Yeah.
I want those tickets that you showed me the other day at 100. Yeah, those aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
But, I do my best to tell people, I give them all the information.
Right.
Like, and I always tell people, listen, they're calling for rain right now. This ticket could be a lot higher.
Yeah.
If there's no rain. And some people are willing to take the shot and some people aren't.
Right.
Like how many calls on Friday? I must have got 20 calls on Friday. Now that everybody's chasing it then.
Sure.
Now you're chasing something to save $25 or $30. It always, listen, I know money's tight but sometimes you just have to realize to know you have that ticket in your hand, whether it's a $75 ticket on Friday or a $200 ticket, you're going to the game. You don't got to stress.
Right.
And you go from there and, just,
have the experience.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too, because we obviously between the radio station and even with the podcast too, we work with a lot of like artists and, all that. And just the way, like when different venues, how they sell tickets. And we've worked with venues before, and like whatever platform that they use to sell those tickets. And then you start like getting under the hood and seeing like the fees and all that. They crush you on fees. Like you can see that, in some cases, see that $100 ticket on a platform and then go to book it. And it's like, next thing you know, that ticket is now $175, like some crazy number.
Well, now they changed that. Now everything's all in pricing.
Okay.
That just came into effect.
Good. Well, that's helpful, but still.
It is helpful, because
at least awareness of it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I still get, I used to get people all the time, before that was the all in pricing.
Yeah.
They would show me a ticket. They say, hey, listen, you always say you could beat the price. And they show me the seat and it's $100, right? And
click on a couple more
I said,
times.
you know what? Do me a favor.
Yeah.
I said, I'll do it for you. I go and I check out and I send them the screenshot.
Yeah.
So it's $175 now, right? I said, yeah, I could definitely beat that price for you. I can do it like for $125 or whatever the number is, right? But it's just funny how, they know, but they want, they just want to test you.
Yeah.
But now everything's all in pricing, which I like because it's easier for me.
Sure.
Because now they know what they see.
Yeah.
And now when I tell them, listen, I can get that fee at $150.
Yeah.
I just saved them X amount % on their money.
Right.
If I save you $25, it's still $25, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I always tell people that $25 just bought you 2 drinks.
Yep.
Or bought you a hot dog. Or bought you parking or something.
Right. Bought your kid a toy or something.
You look at it that way.
Yeah. I think that's good to know too. Cause like, a lot of the stuff, like labels that we work with, artists that we work with, they always talk about how like the ticketing stuff and live events, how that just whole system has been very like, for lack of a better word, broken sort of, and just it's hard to like if you're a smaller artist.
But it's funny that you say that. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go. You're
because they don't understand what happens, right?
Right?
They give a company like Ticketmaster the ball and they run with it, right?
Yeah.
And they put it out there. Ticketmaster is one of the biggest crooks.
Yeah.
If you look at it, they'll do dynamic pricing, right?
Right.
That seat will be $100 and X amount of dollars in the middle in the morning when it first, the pre-sale happens.
Yeah.
And then they see how many people are clicking on it. They see all the data. And then they start doing dynamic pricing. So that same seat, 101, row 2, seat 5 and 6, nobody bought it earlier at $150.
Yeah.
But everything around that was bought. And then an hour later, it'll be at $175. But it'll say official platinum on it.
Interesting.
So what is that, right? That's them seeing that people are buying the seats.
Right.
And they're just raising it $25 just to get another $25 out of it.
Yeah.
Or, it's a Yankee game and that same seat, that's $50 face value.
Yeah.
is now $150 face value, the Twins or the Mets.
Right.
It's the same seat.
Yeah.
But it's a better game.
Yeah.
So that's how, people get hurt. That's how the regular consumer gets hurt.
Yeah. Cause I mean, like even some of the stuff that we've done in the past, like we'll put a ticket, I'll be like, this is a good ticket price for this. And I'll put it out there. And then, like people will go start clicking through. And then even on a $15, $20 ticket, you're still seeing 5, 10, whatever bucks in fees and all that, just because it's like, whatever the processing stuff is, but
right, because you have to pay for credit card, you have to pay for all that other stuff.
We'll cover all those things.
Like when I do my events, I just factor it all in.
Yeah.
When you see the price, it's $25.
Sure.
I don't hit you with anything else. It's nothing else. And that's all my stuff, right? The processing fee. That's what I'm looking, I know what I'm going to make and I know what, and I'd rather me make 8% less.
Right.
Then pass it along to the client and let him make, he pay 8% more.
Yeah.
Because now he's more apt to come back and work with me.
Yeah, because it's upfront, honest.
They know what's going on.
All that, yeah.
There's no trick. There's nothing. All right, so at the end of like when you're doing my tailgate, the only add-on could be, do you want a 50-cent text, right? Like to get your ticket.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only add-on.
Yeah.
There's nothing, no tax, no nothing. Everything's built in.
Yeah, I like that. The other thing too with the tickets, and I don't think we talked about it, but people can use Savvy Seats to ticket their events also.
So
right?
that's our event platform.
Okay.
So that's where it gets a little confusing. My Savvy Seats is different.
Okay.
Than my Savvy Seats events.
Got it.
So Savvy Seats events, yes, it's much like an Eventbrite, Ticket Web or any one of those companies where you can go on and you could actually put your own event on there.
Yeah.
And market it to your people. You have complete control. You could build it into your site.
Yeah.
You can make it your own site.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things. You become your own box office.
Yeah.
And the benefit of that is, maybe we're comparable to Eventbrite, maybe we're 2 or 3 points less than Eventbrite. But the thing is, you put your own card in there, you put your own processor in there.
Yeah.
So when you get paid, when somebody buys a ticket, you're getting the money.
Right.
Right? It's not waiting. You don't have to, you don't have to pay a VIG to get your money before on weekly payouts, or you put your credit card processor in there, depending on what you use, it could be 24 hours, 48 hours after a sale, it's in your bank account.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful because that helps you fund.
Sure. It gives you an idea and, a budget.
Yeah. Now you could maybe use that money for marketing, maybe using that somewhere else. Now you can advance your marketing.
Yeah.
So it helps you.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm excited about the fact that we partnered up because I do think it provides a lot of value, especially before you leave, I'm going to have you show me how to do it. But the events piece of it, I think, is another good thing for us, just because, I think for us, especially with the people that we're working with, like an indie creator or a band or whatever, stuff like that is helpful for us to give them value.
Right. And the same thing, how I look at the ticket business, right? Like if somebody's calling me for a ticket for an event, how I help them get, the right ticket, we put that same philosophy into the event platform.
Yeah.
So if you need somebody to help you with marketing, we have Amber and my team there, right? If you need help for sponsorship, you have Minnie and myself to help you with the sponsorship.
Yeah.
So, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, we want to make money too, just like you.
Sure.
But we're here to help and put you in the right direction. Also helping you, Eventbrite's not going to get on the phone with you and walk you through how to set it up. And you'll have to do one of these, these calls that last 10 minutes. You call me every day, I'll put you in touch with my back end. Yeah. They'll help you. They'll help you create the event. They'll help you show how to do everything. They'll show you how to pull reports. We're here. We're not, we understand that life is confusing enough as it is.
For sure.
And sometimes I think there's too much technology and it confuses you even more.
Yeah.
But we're here to help.
Yeah.
We want you to be happy. We want the people that go to your events to be happy. In turn, they buy more tickets from you.
Right.
In turn, you do more events with us. Yep. And in turn, we're happy, right? Yeah. So, it goes around. It's a full circle.
Yeah. No, I love that. So if people are listening to this and they want to learn more, they want to, know about Savvy Seats, they want to know about the tailgates, where are some places you would send them to go do that?
The easiest place to go is savvyseats.com. Right on the home screen, there's a tailgate zone. In our menu, there's the event platform. So it'll take you to everywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
But the best place to go is savvyseats.com. You could search for any event that you want to go to. and you go from here. All our tailgates will be on there, and that's the easiest place to find us.
Yeah. Thank you for coming through, making the trip out and sitting with us here and all that. I think this was phenomenal. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And a little insight. Cause I mean, like, you know, I hear stuff and I see my own stuff, but kind of getting like a little bit more under the hood on some of these things is cool.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting business, and it's in the limelight right now, you know, because like I said about the, you know, the all-in pricing and some stuff they want to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to help. We're trying, like most ticket brokers are, you know, in the business to help people.
Yeah.
You know, we're not here to hurt anybody. We're not here to manipulate markets.
Sure.
And, you know, as much as you know, there's bad people like in every business.
Oh, for sure.
You know, there's bots that come in and you know, they hurt us too.
Yeah.
Because I can't give you a ticket, like with all that Taylor Swift stuff. Like, I feel bad. Like, you know, customer comes to me and says, listen, I want to take my 4 kids to see Taylor Swift, and they're all 8, but you're spending $6,000.
Oh my God.
You know, that hurts me.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. I'm a parent.
Yeah.
You know, I know. And that's the other thing too. You got to look at the people. Like, you know, when your 8-year-old girl is harassing you, I'll never take another gift for the rest of my life. You know, those people are going to buy, you know,
right. Or else.
Just be quiet. Yeah. Here's your ticket. If it gets me 2 birthdays, I'm good.
Yeah.
But it hurts, you know, like I don't want anybody to spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
Right. Cause I mean, you know, while I think it, you know, also goes back to like what your budget is to have that experience and all that too. But to give them the best experience, the best experience leading up to that experience, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, when a parent's forking over $8-9 grand, there's no good experience.
They must love that kid.
To go to a concert in the last 3 hours.
Yeah, seriously.
There's no
packed with people. You know, oh my God.
I don't think that's a good experience for them.
No, not for, I mean, I don't
for
think
the kids, it's happy.
Yeah, the kids love it, you know, but they'll forget it eventually. So, all right. So savvyseats.com is the website to go to. If you're going there to get tickets, make sure you use code RGS10 for $10 off every time you go and buy.
There you go.
Which is amazing. Also, you can check out some of our other hosts have their own codes, which you could see and use and all that. We would appreciate it. So, Tommy, thank you again for coming through. And this has been the Green Speed Garden State podcast powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm Mike Ham. We were here with Tommy Gucciardo today from Savvy Seats. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks for having me.